Hello, I'm Proclamation. Welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking state pension versus Social Security retirement and the changes that are coming. And they look like they may be coming very quickly. I was a state worker for 12 years, and so I know that system. I know the private system. Now, I try to make my channel about making music, producing music, using free VSTs, but once in a while something comes up that I feel that I need to share. And if you're a retiree, you need to hear this. I'm in my mid-60s, so I am a retiree, and the information is very, very important. This first part, I'm just going to explain how state pensions work, and then we'll talk about Social Security retirement, and then we'll go to the web browser as a blackboard to look over several things that are going on right now in Congress. Now, I'm speaking from my experience from the state of Nevada. I know about PERS of Nevada. An employee, they put in half the money for the retirement, and the state matches it with the same amount, so half and half. And an employee can do that for the whole 25 years till they retire, which you will have a very good retirement at 25 years with the state. Or after the 5 years, you get vested, and then you can go 100% employer, where the state puts 100% in, and you put nothing in, and you get to keep your monies. And you will retire with 25 years of state service for money that you only put in half for the first 5 years. I know state workers that done it. A really nice benefit of being a state worker is that you get 3 weeks vacation and 3 weeks sick a year. So after your first year, you can start taking vacation. That's really nice. You can accumulate your vacation time up to 4 years, and then you have to take it. Another benefit of the state pensioner is they get their retirement based on the 3 consecutive highest years that they worked. So if they move up the ladder to a higher paying job and can hold it for 3 years, and then they have to step on down because they can't keep the job, they're not qualified really, but they keep it for 3 years. When they retire at those 3 highest year, despite the fact that they didn't put in that money of retirement, because your retirement is taken out based on your pay. So they're getting the retirement of a higher pay, but they didn't put the money into it. So there's a lot of state workers that make friends with others in other departments, and they help get them a boost, and they help them to hold it for 3 years, and then they step down. It's politics everywhere. It shouldn't be shocking, but I feel that a lot of people don't know what being a state employee is like. What exactly is a state worker, and what exactly are their benefits? Now, on the downside, they don't get paid as well as the outside world, but 3 weeks vacation, 3 weeks sick a year, that makes up for it. Guarantee. There's nothing like it in the whole world. I got laid off in 2011. The state had a big layoff because they were running out of money for raises. And they outsourced my whole warehouse to Chicago for a really pretty penny. And another thing for the state is when you do lose your job, if you're high enough in grade, you can bump someone lower than you off. Say someone else is in another department, but they're not going to be laid off by the department, but you're going to be laid off by yours. If you're in the same title, you can bump them. You can cause them to go to the unemployment line, and you get their jobs. And a lot of them were doing this because even at the lower pay, when they retire, they get paid their higher pay. Social Security is 35 years that they take and they average for what your retirement is going to be. The state's just 3 straight years in a row. There was a radiologist at the University of Nevada that was making, I think, $60,000 a year, and they were fighting to get $22,000 jobs, bumping them off so that they wouldn't get laid off. So when they retired, they get retired at the $60,000 place. To you state workers that complain about your job, I understand that. There's politics. You got bad bosses. I know the whole thing. I was in the whole 9 yards. 12 years. I also argued about how the pension was kind of a Ponzi scheme, even though it's working. Now let's talk about Nevada PERS. Now, I don't know about other states, but I'm sure they're in the same boat. And PERS is Pension Employee Retirement System. I had to think about that one. And PERS takes the money of the state employee and the state itself and invests it in the stock market. It might be bonds, treasuries, but they also do some risky stuff. Nevada PERS is one of the best, but they do risky things. The thing about PERS is never fully funded. It's always in the red. When I left in 2011, it had 25 years to be solvent. And it wasn't too long ago that I looked, and it still needed another 25 years to be solvent. The reason for this is when the housing bubble popped, state legislators wanted to turn PERS into a 401k, and a lot of them still do. They want to turn state pensioners into 401k retirement. Now, how that would work is those already in the system would be godfather in, it'd be new state workers would be 401k. But PERS has to be fully funded for that to happen. So PERS makes sure that they're always underfunded. These people that are handling the money, they're good at handling money. At least in Nevada, I can say that for sure. State workers, of course, they get their COLA increase. I've heard it's pretty good, but I don't have any details on that because I had to take my state pension out during the housing bubble because, like 2013, I just couldn't find any jobs. Age discrimination, big time on me. When I ended up on unemployment, I was 52. Nobody wanted me. They wanted all the young people. The nice thing about the state is you can retire at 60 with full pension. With Social Security, it's 67. Depends on when you were born. For me, it's 67, but I took it early. There just wasn't any decent jobs going on. The job market sucked. The jobs I was getting were bad. I could tell you lots of stories, but this video has to be about this issue that's very important. You can retire early from the state, but they take, I think, 7% off of your pension for every year that you retire early. Here's another thing about the state. You can put in 7 years of your retirement. You can pay for it in advance. So I retired at 12. Now, I could never come up with the money because you apply for it to find out how much the money was. And for me, it was $40,000. It was 1 year worth of wages. And I just couldn't come up with a lump sum. Got divorced, and I had to dig myself out of that. And it took a couple of years to do that. I wish I could have. When you get laid off by the state, they offer you a couple of extra years to your retirement. So I knew someone that had 25 years in retirement, and the state gave her 5 more years. They give her 30. If you're a state worker and you've just worked just the state only, you have to spend 7 years working in the private sector full time so that you can get Medicare. So a lot of them that retired from the state went to go work at some job so that they can get Medicare in 7 years. That's pretty much it, I think, as far as state pension. So now let's talk Social Security retirement. Depending on when you were born, you have to wait till you're 67 to 70 to get your full retirement. If you retire early, like I did, you get penalized. I'm okay. There's no good jobs out there. There are crappy jobs. 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. I can pass on that. As you get older, it gets more difficult, and a lot of the jobs I've had have been demanding, even physically demanding. Even with the state, it was physically demanding work. It was very demanding work. I finally reached my point where I just really couldn't do it anymore. Age does kick in, and it does hit, and it can hit very hard. Now you get COLA, but it depends on inflation, because COLA is tied to inflation instead of tied to Congress pay increases. If it's tied to Congress pay increases, we'd be doing a lot better. I can guarantee you that. I had to throw that in. I couldn't resist. I just had to throw it in. When you turn 65, you got to pay for Medicare, and it's $174.70 right now and going to $185 next year. And then the tariffs is going to make it worse. They're going to create jobs, but they're not going to create jobs where the wages can keep up with inflation. It's just going to be barely. And companies do that. They'll put out jobs where the wages barely keeps up with expenses so that you're not able to save money to go look for another job when you want to move on or the job goes sour. And bosses can get on employees and crack the whip on them and know that they're not going to quit, because if they quit, they're not going to be able to pay their bills for the month or for the next month. So where am I going with this? We're going to now deal with current events. If you're a state worker, you don't really need to listen to the rest of this. This really more pertains to Social Security retiree. So let's go onto the Blackboard of the web browser and we'll start discussing current events. I will add in one more thing as a petition to all of you out there. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're Republicans. I'm nonpartisan. I hate both parties. I have my reasons. Both parties do not benefit. Some things I like of the Democrats, some things I like of the Republicans. But both of them really want the same thing. They just want it done their way. If it works, they want the credit. And if it doesn't work, they blame the other party. File a nonpartisan. And here's my reason why. If you're nonpartisan and not independent, you got to be careful not to sign up as part of the independent party. You don't want that. You want nonpartisan. Because the Democrats and the Republicans don't know how you're going to vote. And if they see a large mass of U.S. voters become nonpartisan, they get nervous. No joke. For your sake, nonpartisan, it's time to take a neutral stance and see who's really going to benefit us as retirees and who's not. Now, the first thing I want to bring up is this bill, Social Security Fairness Act of 2023, where state pensioners would be able to get the Social Security money that they put into it before they worked for the state, or those 7 years that they worked on the outside. Usually, from what I know, they get penalized 40%. Now, Social Security has it here on the Google search. Will reduce your Social Security benefits by 2/3 of your government pension. Another thing about state workers, there is a cap. After 9 years, you're maxed out. You don't get any more raises. But in the private sector, I've worked jobs where you had no raises at all. You had no benefits, no vacation time, no sick time, no nothing. So, this guy here I just discovered recently. You're not going to like everything that he has to say, especially, calling Social Security a entitlement when it's not. I agree with everyone. It's if you put your money into it, it's not a entitlement. If you put your money into it, it's not an entitlement. Otherwise, our checking accounts and our savings account are entitlements. No, they're not. He was a former Social Security manager and managed the third largest Social Security office in the nation. He retired, but he's doing this as part-time work and trying to give people info on what's happening with Social Security. There was another guy I was following, and he doesn't have anything like this on it. So I highly recommend that you check him out. He has other videos as well. This is the one that you want to watch, Red Alert. And he referenced this video right here. Go down to more. And it's right here, Bill Cassidy. He's a Republican from Louisiana. And he's talking to Wall Street financiers. You scratch their backs, they scratch yours. And I did go and watch this video here, and he basically wants to give Wall Street a portion, a good portion of the trust fund for them to go gamble on the stock market. If you go to his website here,
this YouTube channel is
that there. You want to go up to video, you're on home. And Dr. Oz wants to turn Medicare into Advantage insurance mandatory. But if physicians are saying we're not going to take you as a patient on Medicare, that makes no sense. Does that mean that they're going to boot off senior citizens that have Medicaid and Medicare because they're poor? Anyone's guess. But our lives are on the chopping block, and we're going to get axed. There is one way to solve Social Security, but it's not going to happen. There's a cap on Social Security. It's $168,600 that a person makes. If they make over that amount, and next year is $176,100, they don't pay into Social Security. They pay no Social Security taxes. It's everyone that's $176,100 and under, we pay into Social Security. If you raise the cap, you can solve, they said, 76% of Social Security problem. But no politician is going to do it because Wall Street will not like that. A lot of them make around that money, and they will not like that very much. Now, the House passed this bill in November. If they get enough vote from the House senators, they can just do a strict on-the-floor vote, yay or nay, and the yay won out, and then it went to the Senate. No debating it, no dealing with the issues. Now here is where we trace our trail to the Senate. You got Forbes magazine, and of course they're blaming the Democrats for this. Democrats' last act should not be expediting Social Security insolvency, and they're talking against it. Okay? Forbes magazine. Keep that in mind. This is the video with Bill Cassidy discussing Social Security reform efforts at a No Labels event. No Labels is supposed to be nonpartisan, but they're very Republican. This is where Wall Street financiers are listening to Bill talk through Zoom or Skype or whatever. Look at him smiling. He ain't smiling for nothing. This was put on by Forbes, the very company that was bashing Democrats. This is all Democrats' fault. And lo and behold, guess what's happening in the Senate right now? As Senate clears first vote on the Social Security Fairness Act to repeal the WEP and GPO, and that's the WEP and the GPO is what's in force to take away a portion of Social Security from people with pensions because they know they have good pensions. That's why it was done. They supposed to have a final vote tomorrow. This is 19th. On the 20th. Is this going to affect your Social Security? Oh, yes, down the road. ARP, they're for it, but they prefer reforming the WEP, and that's really would be a better way of doing it. But Congress don't want to take the time to go through all the nuisances of redoing it, and they just want a quick fix. They go to fix the damage that causes more damages. They say that passing this bill would cause Social Security to run out of money 6 months sooner. Don't buy the data. You hear all the numbers. During the election, both sides are throwing numbers across. Is a bunch of BS. You know, the data is faulty. Once you start looking at the data, you know, what they're doing is just faulty. What you can do in the meantime, because this thing's going to get passed before these petition get passed, so you might say, well, why does it matter? The more people that's on this petition that sign up, the people that are bringing up this petition can take it to Washington, D.C. in January and pitch for us in our favor. Until then, that's all that we can really do, is to pray. There's also plans, at least in the Trump administration, to eliminate the FDIC on everybody's bank account, savings and checking. You know how bad that'll be. Because these banks do risky business. When they go down, they're going to take the rest of us down with them. The FDIC is the federal government guaranteeing that, you know, if the banks do something wrong, and we should actually call it evil, but we'll stick to political incorrectness, wrong, our money's at least be safe. And now they want to take that away. There's another one, too, about supporting local Social Security offices, because Social Security plans on closing down a lot of the offices where we're only going to be able to do anything online or by phone. And there's times you need to go into the office and talk with a real person face to face. Change your voting nonpartisan. of a large group, and they'll see it. They'll see it. The information will be there so that when they're voting, the news agencies, they'll get a hold of that data. They go, well, look at this. When 2025 started, a large amount of group of people changed their voting from their party to nonpartisan. I did it while George W. Bush Jr. was running for the second time because I found out some information of things that he was doing. And in the news media and the news press that he was doing, he was saying one thing, and behind our backs, he was doing the opposite. And I had a neighbor that was Democrat, and he went nonpartisan. And so I joined rank with him. I've always voted Republican conservative, but the Republican Party today is not the Republican Party of yesterday. The Democratic Party of today is not the Democratic Party of yesterday. And I've met liberals that absolutely quit being a Democrat and they join the Republican Party. But eventually they're going to be nonpartisan. Eventually it's going to happen because we're all going to just get sick and tired of both parties. So that's my video and presentation that's more directed to senior citizen retirees. We are at risk. So until my next video, take care.